Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Kardec Radio in the Spiritist Society of Virginia. Here we are. This is another Friday Inspirational Talk. We welcome everyone who is coming in. Little by little, we're coming in and gathering together. This is the center coming to our homes. What a privilege for us. For all who have internet access, who have the disposition of organizing themselves to this moment. It is on us to cherish this moment as sacred as it is, because the good spirits have prepared everything to help us, to enter our homes and to embrace us in their loving energies, and to embrace our loved ones as well. So welcome, friends. We are here with Carlos, who is going to read for us the initial message, right, Carlos?
Yes. Okay. In the culture of peace, blessed are the makers because they will be called children of God. Jesus, Matthew 5:9. In the culture of peace, let us always know to respect the opinions of others as we wish to maintain the respect of others towards ours. To put ourselves in the position of the fellows in difficulty so that we may know to be useful to them, to silence improper or destructive references, to recognize that our pains and trials are no different from those who visit the heart of others, to dedicate ourselves to the fulfillment of our obligations, to turn every occasion into the best opportunity to cooperate for the benefit of others, to improve ourselves through work and study, whatever we are, to cultivate the pleasures of serving, to sow love everywhere among friends and enemies, to never doubt the victory of good. Seeking the considerations of peacemakers, we will keep the certainty that true peace does not arise spontaneously, since it is and it will always be the fruit of each one's effort.
Thank you, Carlos. Let us then invite everyone to pray with us. Prayer is so powerful. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, we're going to find the beauty of prayer. We're going to find in the beauty of prayer its efficacy. The efficacy because we connect mind to mind, heart to heart with the higher spheres. Let us do this together. Let us just open our hearts and feel the spirit doctors here with us, our protecting spirits, and visualize hands of light showering upon us. Renew strength and much joy. Let us feel the envelopment of the good spirits and the invitation to new understanding, one that may deliver us from evil. The more knowledge we have, the more opportunities we will find seeking the good. With you, dear God, everything is different. We are dreaming already of the day in which humanity takes it very seriously. Take your existence as center stage. One day we will live our lives according to your will. Meanwhile, suffering is immense, and we are weary and tired of it. May tonight be a moment in which we receive new understanding to multiply the good everywhere we are, bringing consolation, happiness, illumination throughout the world. Feeling the envelopment of your love, we kindly ask you to bless this session. Everyone who is connected to us, whether live or on demand, so we feel how sacred every moment of our lives is. And in the joy of being here, we receive your permission to begin our meeting with you today and always, and so be it. All right, dear friends, we are going to, before I pass the word to Daisy and Paloma, who will lead us into new understanding, we want to share with you that Daisy and Paloma will tell a story that is phenomenal. But before we have our Spirit's Book moment, yes, we do. And I'm here opening the very slides for you. Hold on a second. It's a question of our everyday lives. It's about the Spirit's Book moment. Here it is. As you know, we've been studying the Spirit's Book for quite so many sessions. And today we're going to study this one question, 908. If you go to the Spirit's Book and get to know that you can get the hard copies, there are PDFs online, and there's so many different versions. Here we have the Spirit's Book in this section about the passions. Last time, we were here learning that passion is the result of excess. Now, Kardec asks, how may we define the limit at which passion ceases to be good or bad? Good question. Because right now, we have our children learning in another channel at Kardec Radio's YouTube and the Spirit Side of Virginia, the lesson on moderation as one of the 13 virtues by Benjamin Franklin. And what is the limit to this so-called moderations regarding our passion? And the good spirits answered to Kardec through the mediums by saying the following. Passions are like a horse that is useful when controlled, but dangerous when it does the controlling. Those who know horses know what we're talking about, right? And they complement. You can recognize when a passion becomes harmful at the moment in which you cease to govern it, and when it results in any injury to yourself or others. Let's talk about food. Well, the passion of eating. There are people who eat to live. There are people who live to eat. They wake up thinking about the menu, and not because they are chefs, but because all they think is about the passion of eating. Yes, we may enjoy because, the pleasure of eating is God sent. Yes, we didn't invent it. But when we excessively indulge, then passion for anything. And then some people may argue, what about when you're passionate about doing the good? Well, it's a different story. We're talking about things that may do us harm. When we're truly charitable, we don't harm ourselves. And again, some people may ask, what about when we do so much good that we may extenuate our strength, our forces, and our vitality? Is there a limit to that? That's a question that you're going to find also in the Gospel according to Spiritism. And the answer of the Spirits is this: when you sacrifice your life to the benefit of all, that is great in the eyes of God. It's never a mistake, even if we die helping others. But when we're talking about passions here, we're talking about things that may injure us or do us harm because we are abusing the limits of nature. So, Kardec made a comment to this question. We're not going to read everything, but at the very end, he goes back to the very analogy that the spirits gave herein. It's about the horse. So when you think of passion, think of a horse. A horse, beautiful, if it's tamed and controlled. If it's uncontrolled, it's dangerous and it's useless too, right? So he says, every passion that brings us nearer to the animal nature takes us farther from the spiritual nature. Every sentiment that lifts us above the animal nature announces the predominance of spirit over matter and draws closer to perfection. So here it is. When the good spirits and Kardec are bringing us a tip, they say, there's the animal nature and the spiritual nature. When we do everything we can to advance our programs to do spirit, mind over matter, great. So the passion that scientists have to discover things, to spend hours on end during the night, researching, reading, investigating, that draws us closer to perfection. But when we spend the same nights doing sex, drinking, and just chatting with friends endlessly without any productivity to the general good, that brings us closer to the animal nature. Here are just some examples for us to illustrate and a lot to meditate. Talking about this, now we have Daisy and Paloma. They're going to delight us with a beautiful study, right, Daisy and Paloma, about a case that Kardec brought in the Spiritist magazine at his time, and it's about a spirit named Pierre. Right, Daisy?
That's right, Vanessa. It's a wonderful story, and it goes hand in hand what you just told us about passion and how that applies to our lives and what happens next when we discarnated. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the slides with everyone. So this story is, as Vanessa described, is narrated to us by Kardec himself. Is the story of a spirit. So we're all spirits. We know that in the Spiritist literature. But we also know that Spiritism is a science. And as a science, is important for us to just recap the terminologies that we'll be using here. Kardec, in the Spirit's book, he coined for us the term soul to those who are incarnated, so all of us here, and spirits to those who are discarnated. So, story of a spirit tonight, we'll be describing the story of a discarnate spirit. So, let us see what Kardec tells us in this narration that, as Vanessa said, is in the Spiritus magazine. And Kardec published actually for 12 years, consecutive years, an issue every month. He worked really, really hard. And this story is in the May issue of the 1859 magazine. And Kardec starts describing this by saying that this account is actually unique because, differently from the other accounts that he has reported to us, where he actually reported accounts of very high and elevated spirits who came to describe to us how was life in the spiritual realm, what was the purpose of our existence. In this account, we actually get to know about someone who is very connected to the earth. And he also says that we're going to be able to understand more what we can do to educate and to help not only ourselves, but those who are already disconnected. So he starts telling us that he had a friend that educated very well his mediumship, and he became an excellent writing and hearing medium. And one day he was there in a meeting with another friend, and they were documenting, as Kardec used to do, they were asking questions to the spirit, they were answering, and they were documenting them. But then he realized that the answers, they were a little bit strange. It didn't seem like it was the spirit that they usually received. So he asked, who are you? What is your name? And the spirit said, well, my name is actually Pierre Le Flamand. And Kardec's friend said, I don't recognize this name. I don't know anyone with this name. And Pierre says, well, actually, you used to know me. We were colleagues in school. And he says, well, I don't really remember anyone with that name. And he says, well, do you remember that day that I hit you up in school? They were in a fight. So Pierre was actually a bully in school. But Kardec's friend very kindly and loving said, well, I have no hard feelings. I do remember you now. But tell me more, Pierre. So you're saying now that you have discarnated. So how long have you been discarnated? And he said, well, I actually have been discarnated for 15 years now. And I died very young. I was careless. I lack judgment. I lack good judgment. So I died when I was still in my early 20s. So we know at this point that Pierre was at a young age a bully in school. He had a careless life and he discarnated very young. So the conversation continues, and Kardec's friends then ask, well, so tell me, Pierre, what are you doing here? Why did you come to my home? And he says, look, I don't really know. It was by chance. I was told by someone that I could come here, but I was actually in your neighbor's home. I was there walking around, looking at the pictures, and then I saw you talking with another spirit, and I wanted to talk to you too, so I came here. This says, Kardec's friend said, well, how come? How did you get in? How were you able to get into my house? And Pierre, funny but a little bit sarcastic, he says, well, what do you think? Is there a door bell in the spirit realm that you ring to come into your home? He says, look, I can come in and go to different places. And what do you think? Is your home such a sacred place that I couldn't come in? So he was defiant, right? And at this point, Kardec's friend started getting serious. He wasn't there to play around. And Pierre understood. So he said, look, you're right. There are particular meetings that the superior spirits, they don't let us in. But here I am, and I know the places where sometimes I'm just there to listen. I cannot really say anything. So Pierre, Kardec's friend asked then, well, so tell me more. You've been dead for 15 years. And he says, well, yes and no. My physical body is dead, but I am much alive. I am exactly what I used to be when I was incarnated. I'm not neither good or bad. So, very curious, Kardec's friend asked, well, tell me a little bit more. What do you do with your time? You've been in the spirit realm for 15 years. And he said, look, I really don't do a lot. I don't have an occupation. So I really spend my time going from home to home. I love to go to the theater, so I go to the theater. But what I love the most is actually hearing other people's conversations. Really interesting, right, friend? And then he says, you'll be surprised. I actually witnessed very, very funny moments because if people only knew that they are never alone. Okay, friends, let us put a pause here for us to discuss a little bit before we continue with this story. So here we have Pierre. He is describing to us this story, and it's not by chance that Kardec is bringing this story to us. Pierre, as he himself described it to us, he was an average spirit. He was neither good nor bad. While he was incarnated, he didn't commit, quote unquote, any crimes. He had a careless life. He enjoyed his life and he discarnated very young. So many people ask and they think, we all of us, right? Well, the day I discarnate, I will go to a beautiful place. I want to go to No Solar. I want to be there with the high spirits in these beautiful places where everyone is kind and loving with one another. I have access to school. I can learn more. I can help. Well, Pierre is showing to us that in order to get there, and we all hope we'll get there, it really depends on what we're doing right now. Because if we do want to be in a place like No Solar or many other beautiful colonies, right? We give the example No Solar because of André Luiz' book, but a colony like No Solar, we need to right now be practicing the characteristics, the having those moral values inside of us. Because if we're here enjoying life as it is, nowadays in the society, as Pierre was doing at that time. When we discarnated, we'll be like that. In the spiritualist literature, we know that 2/3 of the spirits on earth right now are discarnated. And from those 2/3, 1/3 of them are superior spirits. The rest, they are like all of us. It's still spirits who are learning, who are progressing. And many of them are like Pierre. They are wandering spirits because that's what they do. Some of them know they are discarnated, others don't. And they go where they feel welcome, where they like. If they like the theater, they will go to the theater. If they like to watch soccer, they will be there watching soccer. So we then ask ourselves, if the spirits, they like what we like, they will be with us. So if we are, as Vanessa was describing to us, the passions, if we're using our passions for the good, if we're doing good activities, we're going to have spirits who like the same thing. If we're helping others, if we are there doing the passions that led us closer to the animal kingdom, we're going to have spirits who like those activities too. So this is not for us to be afraid, friends. It's just to open our eyes. Because the next question is, what can we do? Wow, Daisy, now what can we do to really protect ourselves? First, friends, it starts with all of us, inside of us. Having thoughts, feelings, words, and actions that are coherent with God's law. If we elevate our sentiments, our thoughts, then we're going to attract good spirits. Kardec told us in the Spirits book, if we want to attract high elevated spirits, what we need to do, we need to practice selflessness and humility. That's how we attract good spirits. And how can we then protect our home? As we started this meeting talking about prayer, we had a few weeks ago a beautiful talk by Adriano about doing the Jesus in the home, the God in the home, and that is really puts a protective field around our house. So, a lot of good food for thought for all of us. But let us continue with this story because we want to learn more with Pierre. So at this point in the story, Kardec's friend asks, well, so you must be really happy, right? You are there, you're enjoying, you're doing the things that you used to like. And he says, well, actually, this is torture. I am very unhappy because I can be there, but I cannot enjoy. So friends, the spirits, all of us, when we discarnate, we have emotions like anyone else. They feel sad, they feel alone, and they also feel jealous. So, another point for us, we think about prayer when we are going through difficulties in our lives, but do we pray when we are happy? Because if we want the company of the good spirits, we want to protect ourselves. Why not? And we should, because yes, there are spirits who are there and they get jealous because they are suffering deeply in the spirit realm. And what can we do? We can pray for them, pray a lot, because most of them, they might not have a loved one who are there praying. They are not alone. We know that God is taking care of all of us. But how much can we do to help those spirits? So he continued describing that, yes, he goes to the theater, he's there. Sometimes he visits all the theaters in Paris in one night, but still that void inside his heart, he cannot fulfill that void. So in this point in the conversation, Kardec's friend says, well, I do feel for you, because if you only knew that life is much more than that. And he says, thank you so much. Your words, they really comfort me, because no one has ever really treated me this way. And then Kardec's friend says, look, have you ever thought about using your time to doing something useful? Instead of being there, just enjoying, having fun, why don't you use your time to study, to observe what's happening? And you can come back, you can report this to me, and we can study together. So he invited them, friends. It was the first time he had someone that listened to him and invited him to join the team. And he was ecstatic. He was so happy. And he was like, yes, tell me more. I want to start right away. And he said, look, let's be patient. Let's calm down. And we will continue. I will continue studying your case. And we'll talk in another time. So this was the first dialogue, friends, the first part of our story, the story of Pierre, who has so much to teach, because through his story, we can get to know, and we can not only apply in our lives, but help many, many spirits like Pierre who are there, wandering spirits. So I'm going to now pass to our dear Paloma, who's going to continually telling us more about this story.
Thank you, Daisy. I was with a smile thinking of Pierre, because we are at home thinking nothing's happening in our homes, right? And then Pierre comes and breaks the ceiling glass for us, that we have company everywhere at all times. In the bathroom? Probably. They're everywhere. And it's up to us to, as Pierre is going to teach us, who is it with us? So let us continue with the story, because it gets very interesting. So a week after the first encounter, so he saw, an old friend from when they were incarnated. They communicated. Pierre comes back and mentions that he had already visited Kardec. And his friend like, what do you mean? You don't, I didn't tell you anything about Kardec. How do you know? What did you do? He's like, your thoughts. You were thinking of Kardec. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go visit him and see what's going on there. So first hint for us, right? Our thoughts. They can connect with us with our thoughts, not only what we're saying. So we need to think, what is the quality of our thoughts? If we are constantly emitting and attracting, that's a law, the law of action and reaction. How is our daily thought pattern affecting me, affecting us? We have to reflect as we walk out of this meeting tonight better, with enhancements. Like Pierre, he was there, he was thinking, okay, I'm done after 15 years. How can I do better? He's going to describe what he saw at Kardec's home. And he says that he learned many things that he had no idea about. Now we can extrapolate here, friends, to imagine that if he visited somebody else's home, as he mentioned in the first part of the story, that he was everywhere, he didn't say he learned, but he went to Kardec's home and he learned things he had no idea about. Why is that? Because Kardec was very, very studious. Make no mistake, it wasn't by chance that it was Kardec that brought these teachings, the codification to us. It's because he was ready to deliver knowledge from the higher realms. He was a good tool. Where are we? Are we ready to, collaborate with the higher realms? And through this encounter visiting Kardec's home, Pierre figured out that he had to work for his own betterment. He had to take action. It was up to him. So interesting, right? Just by visiting Kardec, it compelled Pierre to change. What were those things that made him change? Well, he tells us more. He tells us more about this visit to Kardec's home. He said when he got there, Kardec was by himself in his office writing, working as usual, book. But he noticed that Kardec was surrounded by like 20 spirits that were around him, whispering above his head. Now remember, Kardec wasn't the medium that brought the codification to us. He's the one that compiled it, that asked the questions, but he wasn't the medium. But that doesn't mean that he wasn't being influenced by the spirits, right? Because that's what Pierre is telling us, that the spirits were there, many, many, many spirits, whispering above his head. And Pierre said that Kardec did perceive the spirits around him because every so often he would look around, go to the window, see if the noise he just heard was the rain or the wind. But the question for us is this: if we know we're surrounded by spirits, they're everywhere. They connect with us based on our thoughts, emissions. Who are we allowing in our homes? And how do we safeguard our homes from the spirits that we would say uninvited? And Daisy already told us the importance of prayer. That is our number one way to protect our homes. Because we cannot even hide in the bathroom any longer. Pierre already told us they will find us, right? So we have to think, who are we allowing in our homes? And it brings us, conscious of our actions. There's no point to pray, and then we leave that moment of prayer and we're cursing in the home, we are yelling, we are not being conciliatory. Does it work? It doesn't. Because then it's just words. We really gotta be coherent between our prayer, our will, our wishes, our desires as spirits. But Pierre's so funny. He continues the story. Now he's feeling so good. He visited Kardec's home. He is ready to do the good. He is feeling strong and he knows he has to do the good. He has to be better. And he's walking on the streets, looking at stores. And as he, even the mall, the spirits are everywhere. And he's looking at the store. And he noticed when he looked at one specific store that was closed, that something weird was happening there. He went in, saw a man that was very, very agitated, and this man was pacing back and forth, and he had a look like he was about to do something bad. He was thinking about stealing the money that was in that store. Pierre also saw that there were two spirits with this man. One spirit that was whispering in the man's ear not to be a coward, to take the money, go ahead, do it. The other spirit was actually telling the man, leave, don't fall into temptation. Think about prison, don't do it, leave. Trying to coach him not to fall into the wrongdoings. This is the type of thought patterns we have, most likely on a daily basis. These intuitions that are very antagonistic, where we're thinking, do I do this or do I do that? Do I do this or do I do that? So who are we going to listen to? And it's very surprising what's going to happen next. Because at this point, Pierre he wants to do the good. He is willing to do anything. He was there watching. He saw the man going towards the money. He jumped in front of the man to make him stop. You can imagine that the bad spirit wasn't very happy and told Pierre to get out of the way. What was he doing there? That wasn't his place. Get out. And the good spirit got close to Pierre and explained that the man had to experience this temptation. It was a trial. And if he fails, it would have been his own fault. Interesting, right? Because we're right here watching it. He's about to do something bad. Pierre is like, I want to do it. Save him. And the good spirit says, no, no, no. We have our will. We make decisions and we are responsible for them. For the good and for the bad. So as much as our guardian angels, our mentors are with us, they will allow us to make mistakes. That is God's law. And eventually, we will learn and we won't do those again. Hopefully, we will learn faster than necessary than being stuck for 15 years like Pierre wandering. But it will happen. So a lot of questions, we hear this question sometimes that says, okay, so how do I know if I'm being influenced by the spirit? How do I know if these thoughts I'm having, is it mine or is it coming from the spirits? How can I know? Kardec had the same question. So it's a natural question. Kardec asked it too. It's question 461 on the Spirit's book. And he said, how can we distinguish between our own thoughts and those the Spirit suggests to us? The good spirits answer. They said, when a thought is suggested, it is like a voice speaking to you. Your own thoughts usually occur to you first. So our own thoughts are those that come to mind. They come so quickly. But then the spirits go further, and this is very interesting because if we are really concerned, is it my thought? Is this the spirit thought? Am I being influenced? How do I know? The spirits tell us. They said, the distinction is not of much practical importance to you, so it doesn't matter who it came from. And it's often better not to be able to make it. Your action then has greater freedom. So it doesn't matter where the thought came from. If you choose the right road, you do so more spontaneously, while if you take the wrong one, your responsibility will be greater. So the point on that answer from the spirits is it doesn't matter where it came from. Because if you choose the bad way, you're still going to be responsible for. You cannot say, oh, the spirit told me to do it. Or it can be an incarnate spirit too. Oh, somebody told me to do it. No, it doesn't work like that. But we will also reap the benefits of choosing to do the good. Because it didn't come because of intuition or anything like that. We did it because we chose to do. The story continues. Pierre didn't quite understand, don't try to stop the crime. He was still adamant about it. The bad spirit continued influencing it. The man was telling him to drink so that he would feel like stronger, like maybe that would make him not feel like, a coward. And Pierre kept trying to intervene to stop the crime. What a mess, huh? He was just wandering looking at the stores, and he saw this. Well, a mess. And you can imagine the good spirits trying to protect us, and we are making this type of mess every day. So at the end of Pierre's account, his friend asked, Pierre, are you ready to practice the good? Pierre, after all of this, are you ready to really try to do the good? Pierre said yes. So his friend asked for him to try to help another friend. Right? The golden rule that we started right at the beginning of the session today when Vanessa was telling us, do unto others what you like to do to you. He's being called here to help another friend because helping others is the way to keep us in the good path. And then the final moments of this dialogue were so beautiful because the good spirits are always there. And Pierre explains that when the good works happen, anything we do that is good, it comes from the higher realms. So if you ever doubt that you are under the influence of the good when you're doing something good, Pierre is telling us, don't have a doubt. When we're doing something good, it's because it's coming from above. Including this account, This account that Kardec put on the magazine, it wasn't because Kardec chose. It's because it came from the higher realms, and Kardec was just a great instrument that put it on the magazine. Kardec, with his beautiful works, is showing to us that what happens during our life continues in our afterlife. This idea that we are, living our lives here and then we discarnate and suddenly we're angels, not so much. But Kardec also tells us that knowing what we know right now, that how we live our lives impacts our afterlife, empowers us to think of Where are we focusing our life? Temporary or permanent gains? Are we developing our material life or our spirit for immortality? And one thing for sure, we need to study more, read more, work on profound healing of the soul, so that we don't have to do this in the afterlife and wander for 15 years until we're able to study together. It's so important for us to really think about how we're living our current lives. And to finalize, and this we can read a lot about in Thought and Life, the book from Emmanuel, that talks about, how preparation for a reincarnation. And there we learn that our thoughts are always connecting. We're always connecting with each other. So it's critical for us to have positive thinking, connecting our thoughts to constructive patterns. Otherwise, we are connecting ourselves to destructive patterns. Beautiful message from Kardec. We thank you, Pierre, for allowing this message to come. And we leave with a lot of food for thought, a lot of reflection in how we live this life, focusing in the afterlife.
You're muted, Vanessa.
Right on, Paloma and Daisy. Thank you, friends. It is the message. You're right, Paloma. And we have here a question by Sol Souza. Hello, Sol. She's asking, when are we doing the gospel at home and always trying to do the good every day? Can the bad spirits be allowed to come inside our home? It depends, right? What are we doing? What are we doing? It depends. It's like a phone. You have the Wi-Fi on and off, just a button. The button is just a thought and a feeling. If I keep cherishing good thoughts, good feelings, good words, good actions, we're constantly connected with good spirits. But let us give an example by Chico Xavier. He was truly altruistic. He was always putting other people's needs before his own. And yet, the spirits who were bad, evil, approached him. Like one time, he was at a hospital. And usually at a particular time, the good spirits would come and deliver the passes. He thought that that was the time. He prepared himself. He was laying down. He closed his eyes, started praying. And then Emmanuel whispered, quote unquote, in his ears, Chico, take a look at the feet of the spirits. He looked down and saw feet of goat. Of course, it's symbolic, right? Showing to him that these spirits were not good. He turned to Emmanuel and asked, what do I do? He said, pray more. He prayed even more fervently. It's like intensifying the prayer. So, Saul, we are on earth. We have to be vigilant. It's not enough to pray. Be vigilant in terms of our thoughts, our feelings, and constantly renewing ourselves, seeking the good always. Right, Daisy and Paloma?
That's right, Vanessa. Yeah.
And we would like to bring here Karen and Luciana because they just taught the children about one of Ben Franklin's virtues, moderation. The chapter we learned from the Spiritist magazine at Kardec's time that Daisy and Paloma were sharing with us talk about somewhat the importance of tempering our needs, our desires, being moderate. So, Carol and Luciana, would you like to share a little bit about the lesson today?
Yes, it was a wonderful lesson, Vanessa and friends, because through Ben Franklin, we discussed with the children that too much of a good thing can actually be a bad thing.
Mhm.
And this is a new, quote unquote, new concept, even for us adults, because we often tend to indulge in doing the things that we like the most. And even for us adults, it's hard to find balance and discipline. So we are very grateful to Ben Franklin and, of course, Master Jesus and God for bringing this virtue in such a illuminated way for us to study together, because as we find inner balance and discipline of emotions and thoughts and actions, we prepare ourselves better for life in the afterlife, as well as you were discussing. So the lesson for the children tonight matched beautifully with the lesson for the adults as well, right, Lou?
Right. Everything in balance. So the kids and the parents this week has a hard work to be working together. This balance, this harmony in the family and everywhere. Not only like in the spiritual, right? That we want to be the balance in the spiritual, but for the kids now, they're learning how to be here in the planet Earth. So we need to teach them how to be more moderate with their toys, with their food, with their clothes, because they don't know very well yet.
Mhm.
So that's why we count with the parents to help themselves to be more moderate and help the children to become a more moderate, more balanced human beings in the future.
You're right. And talking about moderation, tomorrow at 11 a.m., we have a special session talking about food, moderation, healing. The author of the phenomenal book, Cured. It's about true cases of spontaneous healing by Dr. Jeffrey Rediger from Harvard University. He's going to be here with us at Kardec Radio at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to talk about the phenomenal findings he had and a huge message for all of us, especially at the current times of this ongoing pandemic, right? So, friends, today we're gonna finalize with our passes followed by a prayer. And today we have a friend who is joining us for the prayer. Michele, how are you, Michele?
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I'm good.
It feels good that you're here. We miss everyone, right?
Right?
So here's the deal, friends. I'm going to be conducting a short spiritual passes visualization, followed by Michele's final prayer. Okay? So let us then join in these feelings of gratitude. Let me put here some sound for it. Okay, hold on a second. 1, 2, 3. Let us then open ourselves to these beautiful vibrations of the good spirits, doctors, nurses, therapists, who visit us tonight or today, if you are watching or listening on demand. Let us breathe in and out deeply and slowly, and feel the healthy molecules traveling within ourselves. Wherever there is pain, discomfort, let us visualize these illuminated molecules going to those very areas of our bodies and dissolving tensions, diluting anything that is unwanted. We breathe in and out, visualizing hands of light. The healing that comes from the Sacred Heart of Jesus Christ, passing through the hands of the Spirit Doctors onto us. Let us accept their operation upon us. Let us say inside of us, I accept this healing in God's name, and repeat it. I accept this healing in God's name. I accept the healing in God's name. And we feel the warmth of the envelopment of their energy, spreading itself out to our homes, loved ones, from animals to plants, to relatives, to family members in two realms. And from our homes to the neighbors, enveloping them in love and protection. To the schools around the world. And we visualize especially this healing energy into the White House. And the whole United States being enveloped by this healing light. And now we pass the word to our dear friend Michele to lead us into the final prayer.
Now, dear brothers and sisters, let's keep our eyes closed. Let us thank you, God, for this blessed moment, for these blessed teachings. And may we now elevate our thoughts to the divine love that we have inside of us. And let us together pray for our brothers and sisters who are in need at this moment, for those who are in hospital, for those who are desperate for many reasons, especially for those who are thinking about suicide or abortion. May the divine light that everyone has can also spread love, serenity, and especially courage. May also we pray for the nature, for all creatures. May also we pray for our homes, that we can be also light to our neighbor, our brothers and sisters in need, and also our family. Let us also thank God for one more week, for the life, for the bread of our day, and let us ask serenity, love, and hope, but especially courage to make this commitment with the divine love that we have inside of us. So let's together ask God the permission to close this meeting and be one big fraternal family. And so be it.
It feels wonderful. Yes, what a blessing. Thank you, Michele. Thank you, Paloma and Daisy. Thank you, Luciana and Karen. Thank you, friends who are here. If you have any question, feel free to ask us here, either here in the very chat of Facebook, YouTube, etc., or send a message to kardecradio@gmail.com, where we'll be able to address your questions. So we wish you lots of blessings with the much that we have been nourished today. Thank you, friends.